His eyes promised nothing. It made her believe in something so real, *I. The silence before the story. There are moments in life that don't begin with fireworks, music, or grand entrances. Some stories start with a whisper, a glance, a silence that somehow speaks louder than noise. And in that silence, she met him. It wasn't in a dramatic place. No romantic sunset. No violin in the background. Just an ordinary room filled with ordinary people. Yet in the corner were two eyes that were anything but ordinary. They didn't sparkle like poetry would suggest. They weren't filled with mystery or danger. In fact, they were calm still, almost indifferent. But there was something in that stillness, something that made her pause. Not because those eyes promised her the world, but because they did in single quotes. And for someone who had grown up with broken promises, empty affection, and half-hearted connections, that was the most honest thing she had ever seen. She, who no longer believed before she met him. She had stopped believing. Not in love. Love was a fairy tale she had long buried. Not in kindness. She knew kindness often came with hidden debts. And not in people. People had taught her that presence didn't mean loyalty. And words didn't mean truth. She had mastered the art of being alone in a room full of people. Her heart had been conditioned to hear forever and silently. Reply, we'll see. She didn't want grand gestures. She didn't crave being saved. She just wanted someone whose silence felt safe. So when his gaze met hers, not with desire, not with promises, not with charm, but with quiet presence, she didn't know what to do, because in that one moment, her heart didn't scream. It whispered, maybe this time it's different. 3. His eyes, the language without words. He never tried to win her. He didn't ask for her story. He didn't try to complete her sentences. He didn't rush to make her laugh. He simply looked. But in that look, there was a strange kind of gravity, one that didn't pull her into fantasy, but grounded her in reality. She felt seen. Not in the way people see your face or your body or your image, but in the way someone sees your silence and chooses to stay. There was no pressure in his eyes, no agenda, just quiet presence, as if saying, you don't need to be more than who you already are. And to someone who had spent her life trying to be enough, that felt revolutionary. The unspoken moments, they didn't fall in love the way movies show it. There was no montage, no confessions under the rain. There were just small moments. The way he waited patiently when she didn't speak. The way his eyes softened when she talked about pain. The way he never tried to fix her, just sat with her brokenness. And that made all the difference. Because what she needed wasn't someone to paint over her scars. She needed someone who wasn't afraid to look at them. He wasn't the hero of her story. He didn't come with solutions. But his quiet, consistent presence reminded her of something she had forgotten. Sometimes, the most real things are the ones that aren't spoken. A glimpse into his own silence. He wasn't flawless. He had his own ghosts. There were nights he stared into space, fighting battles he never explained. She noticed the way his jaw clenched when he saw certain things, and how sometimes his silence wasn't peaceful, but protective. He had been hurt too, but the beauty was he never bled on her. He never used her to heal his wounds, simply let her be. And in turn, she learned to do the same for him. They were two wounded souls, not trying to fix each other, but simply choosing not to leave Vi. When something real doesn't need a name, they never labeled what they had. In a world obsessed with definitions, they chose to exist. Some would call it a relationship, others friendship. But to them, it was just real. They didn't owe each other forever. They didn't make promises they couldn't keep. But every day, in the simplest of ways, they showed up. Sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Not because it's weak, but because it's steady. And that's what she had found in him. Her heart. Reawakening, she began to smile again, not because he gave her happiness, but because he reminded her it still existed. She found herself writing again, the words flowing like they used to. Before the world taught her to stay silent, she didn't become someone new. She simply returned to someone she used to be before the world made her forget. And that is what real presence does. It doesn't change you. It reminds you of who you've always been. 8. His eyes still promised nothing. Years passed. They never became the perfect couple. They had days of distance, days of silence, days of storms, but through it all, his eyes never changed. They didn't start promising forever. They didn't promise protection, perfection, or passion. But they still held that quiet truth that first drew her in. I'm here as I am. No promises, but no lies. And that to her was everything. Ix. The truth she learned looking back. She realized something important. The people who promise the world often leave when it's time to give. But the ones who simply offer their presence, they are the ones who stay. It was never about the words. It was about the consistency, the integrity, the quiet strength. His eyes didn't promise dreams, but they never broke her reality. And maybe that's the rarest kind of love there is. X to you. Who's still waiting if you're someone still waiting for that one. The person who will look at you, not with fireworks, but with peace. This is for you. Don't rush love. Don't settle for loud promises and shallow charm. Wait for the presence that calms your storm, not stirs it. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it enters like a whisper, stays like a shadow, and lives like a truth. And maybe one day, when you least expect it, you'll look up and see eyes that promise nothing, yet make you believe in something so beautifully real. Asterisk closing from us to you, Awaken Mindset, dear friend. Maybe you're tired of unclear relationships, of promises never kept, of eyes that once looked at you like you were their whole world, only to leave as if you meant nothing. But please, don't stop believing in what's real, because somewhere out there, there is still a gaze. One that doesn't promise, doesn't speak grand words, doesn't tie you down, yet somehow makes you feel that you are worthy of unconditional kindness, of a connection that doesn't need to be proven. If this story touched even a small corner of your heart, we'd be deeply grateful if you could leave a like, a comment, or simply share it with someone who might need it too. And if you wish to, walk this journey of healing and awakening together. Don't forget to follow our channel, Awaken Mindset, because we truly believe the most real things in this life sometimes begin with nothing more than a quiet, sincere glance. #Awaken Mindset. #Love in Silence. #Healing through connection. #presence over promises. #quiet love. #eyes that see you. #real not perfect. #gentle strength. #emotional healing. #believing again.